Assalamu alaikum. How are you all students? I hope you have learned the previous topic properly, which was spinal cord. Well, okay, today we'll discuss the next division of nervous system, which is peripheral nervous system. Before that, let's see what is the moral lesson of the day. It is do good and have good. Which means that the more good we do to others, the more our hearts will be purified and closer to God we get. So, if you want that good should be happen to you, you should do good to others. Okay, let's proceed towards the next topic, that is peripheral nervous system. You know, the nervous system of human has two divisions: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord, whereas the peripheral nervous system consists of nerves. Okay, so let's just see the peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system consists of nerves and ganglia. You have studied about what are ganglia in the structure of spinal cord. It is the part where the cell bodies are located. So, what is the peripheral nervous system made up of? It is made up of nerves and ganglia. Singular ganglion, plural ganglia. Ganglia are the clusters of neuron cell bodies outside the central nervous system. Means this is the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and outside this brain and spinal cord there are clusters of neuron cell bodies which are called ganglia. As you know that the nerves arise or lead to brain and spinal cord, which means that nerves are rather coming from brain to spinal cord or from spinal cords to brain, or between brain and spinal cord the nerves are arising. So they are named as cranial and spinal nerves. It means that peripheral nervous system consists of nerves. What are those nerves? They are rather arising or coming from brain to spinal cord, or rather they are arising from spinal cord and going to all body parts or brain. So the nerves which arise from brain are called cranial nerves, and the nerves which arise from spinal cord are termed as spinal nerves. Spinal cord is roughly 40 centimeter long and about as wide as your thumb for most of its length. Means whole of this 40 centimeter is as wide as your thumb's width. So spinal cord is roughly 40 centimeter long and as wide as your thumb for most of its length. How many types of cranial nerves? How many pairs? There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Cranial nerves may be sensory, motor, or mixed, which means that some of the cranial nerves are sensory nerves, some are motor, and some are mixed, which means they have both axons of sensory and motor neurons. Whereas all spinal nerves are mixed nerves. You have studied about the structure of or a spinal nerve as well in the previous topic in spinal cord, that there are two roots coming from the spinal cord which unite to form one mixed spinal nerve. So all the spinal nerves are mixed nerves because they contain axons of both sensory and motor neurons. Okay, there are different pathways occupied by these nerves. The spinal and cranial nerves make two pathways. Sensory pathway, the pathway which conducts impulses from receptors to central nervous system. Here you can see this is a receptor, and from here the impulses are traveled to this spinal cord or central nervous system or spinal cord and brain, And this pathway is sensory pathway because it uses sensory neurons. You have studied in the definition or in the function of sensory neurons that they conduct impulses from receptors to central nervous system. So the pathway made up by sensory neurons, definitely it conducts impulses from receptors to central nervous system. And the next pathway is motor pathway, which conducts impulses from central nervous system to effectors. Effectors are rather the muscles or rather glands which produce response. Clear? So there are two pathways which are made by the spinal nerve and cranial nerve. Sensory pathway conducts impulses from receptors to central nervous system, and the motor pathway conduct impulses from central nervous system to effectors. Sensory pathway and then motor pathway. Clear? The sensory pathway, I have seen a glass of water and it sends the message to the brain, where the brain directs the muscles in the hand, muscles in the arm to hold the glass of water and drink. So this is how the pathways are working. Motor pathways. The motor pathway makes two systems. The motor pathway involves the pathway which conducts impulses from central nervous system to effectors. Okay, it makes two systems: somatic nervous system, autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system. It is responsible for conscious and voluntary actions, like you have seen in the example of seeing a glass of water and then drinking it. It is a controlled action. It is according to your will. You can control it. If you see a glass of water, you can go and fetch the glass of water. Whereas, so it means that it is controlled by a somatic nervous system. The nervous system which is responsible for conscious and voluntary actions. That is somatic nervous system. It includes all the motor neurons that conduct impulses from central nervous system to skeletal muscles. Which means that everything that is happening related to movement, related to skeletal muscles, or all the information that is passed by motor neurons to skeletal muscles from central nervous system, it is included in this somatic nervous system. So the somatic nervous system is responsible for conscious and voluntary actions, and it includes those motor neurons which conducts information from central nervous system to skeletal muscles. Autonomic nervous system. It is responsible for activities which are not under conscious control, which means they are involuntary actions, such as here you can see this heart. It means heart is breathing. Beating. So we can say that breathing is involuntary, although it is voluntary to some extent, but on a major role it is involuntary. Heartbeat is involuntary. So the actions which are not under our conscious control, they are controlled by autonomic nervous system. It consists of motor neurons that sends impulses to cardiac muscles, smooth muscles, and glands. It means it includes those motor neurons which are transforming information from central nervous system to cardiac muscles or the muscles of heart, smooth muscles, or glands. So all that information which is being passed from central nervous system to cardiac muscles, smooth muscles, and glands, it is actually controlled by autonomic nervous system. It further has two divisions. What are those two divisions? They are sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. What is sympathetic nervous system? Here you can see in this picture a boy who has a fight or flight situation, or you can say that it is a system which prepares the body to deal with emergency situations and produces response which is fight or flight response. So this is often called the fight or flight response. So the fight or flight response in case of emergency situations is controlled by sympathetic nervous system, rather to fight or flight. It also carries out some necessary actions. It also performs some necessary actions during such situations. What are those necessary actions? They are dilation of pupil. The pupil dilates. Accelerates heartbeat, which means the heartbeat increases. Increasing breathing rate. The breathing rate increases up to 30 to 40 minutes 40 times per minute, and inhibits digestion or slows down the process of digestion in case of any emergency situation. Clear? So these are the important actions which are taken up by sympathetic nervous system in case of emergency situations, which are fight or flight. If it's too dark, the pupil dilates and helps to see. If it's any kind of situation in which the person needs to run, or is a threatening situation, the person has to run, as well as the heartbeat increases, as well as the breathing rate increases, and so on. So these different actions are performed by the sympathetic nervous system, or you can say the sympathetic nervous system is controlling the emergency situations. Parasympathetic nervous system. What does parasympathetic nervous system do? It is opposite to sympathetic. The sympathetic controls emergency. It means it controls the relaxed situations, or it promotes the or brings the situations back to normal. When stress ends, the parasympathetic nervous system takes action and normalizes all functions. It again contracts the pupil, promotes digestion, slows the heartbeat and breathing rate. Or it is also called stressed rest and digest response. So, in case of parasympathetic situation, the response produced is called rest and digest. Be normal. Clear? Here you can see a short flow chart for the division of nervous system. It has two parts: central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system consists of all the nerves arising from the spinal cord and cranium, brain. Peripheral nervous system has two divisions: autonomic nervous system, somatic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic division, and the somatic nervous system generally controls all the voluntary actions, which involves both sensory pathways and motor pathways. So that's all about PNS, or peripheral nervous system. You need to write the differences between the somatic and autonomic nervous systems, and then also write down the differences between the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So that's all for today. Allah Hafiz.